The number one question I get from all of my coaching students, as well as this community here on YouTube, is how do I get my first SMMA client? How do I actually get to the point where I collect the invoice so that I can start running ads or providing the service that SMMA is all about? And it's a great question because nothing happens in SMMA or in business in general until you actually get a client. It's like dating. Nothing happens till you actually go on a date. Nothing happens in business until you get your first sale. And guys, there's a reason that most people aren't entrepreneurs. And it's because this side of business, like the prospecting, sales, marketing, all of that stuff, it's tough to learn and it's tough to execute consistently. So if you can learn it and you can actually get good at it, I can promise you that you'll never go hungry and you'll never want for business in your life because you'll know how to actually move the needle and get sales. I'm also sick of most of the gurus who are either A, talking about just tactics, or B, talking about just mindset. Tactics are important, mindset are important, and what we're gonna do in this video is combine them together so you don't get stuck on one of these sides because they're both crucial to you understanding and succeeding with SMMA. So that's what we're covering in this video. I promise it's going to be the most valuable video you've watched on outreach on YouTube. I'm not holding anything back here. I don't have a course to sell you. If you're interested in coaching, then you can go to itskeaton.com/coaching. I have group and one-on-one coaching. Never had a negative review. Everybody loves it. The group coaching program is doing amazingly well right now. And we still got a few spots left, so I'd love to see you in there. But let's not talk about that now. Let's get into the meat of the training. This is a little bit of a different video. I've prepared slides that we're gonna go through today. So let's go ahead and hop into my computer and look at the slides. The foundation of everything when it comes to outreach and prospecting, getting your first client, is your offer. And to create a good offer, you need to answer these 4 questions. Number 1, to whom am I selling? What's my niche? Number 2, what am I selling them? Number 3, at what price point? And number 4, with what expectations and deliverables? This one, most people forget, most people don't talk about, and it's very, very important. Basically, this means, are you telling the person that you're an experienced marketer that's going to be able to get them these crazy results? Or are you being transparent with them and showing them that you are a beginner and you're going to get beginner results, but they'll get a good price? We'll talk about that a bit more in depth later. But first, let's answer this question, to whom am I selling? Guys, your niche is so important when it comes to any business, but especially SMMA. So let's look at a few of the considerations that you should have as you're doing this. First of all, we've got 2 ways to niche down. So we can have a niche market and a niche service, or we can have a large market and just niche our service down. So this one on the right is a little bit better for more advanced people, and the one on the left is definitely what I recommend for beginners. So first, let's talk about the pros and the cons of having a niche market and a niche service. The first one is powerful prospecting. If you're reaching out to only orthodontists like I do in my business, or only chiropractic offices, or only, I don't know, dog trainers, then you're going to have very powerful prospecting because you're speaking directly to that industry. With this model, it's a lot easier to create plug and play campaigns, templates, all that kind of thing that you can just basically copy paste from one client to the other and, sell out the entire market in your country or wherever you're trying to sell. And that brings me to the last pro here, which is that it's easier to become the best in the world. Like, there's not that many orthodontic marketing specific companies. And so it's not that hard for me to become the best orthodontic marketing company in the world, or one of the top 3, right? But this does come with some cons, which is that you can have limited prospecting channels on really small markets. I'm a good example of this. There's only about 10,000 orthodontists in the US. And so when it comes to reaching out to them and like getting in front of them, it's not as straightforward as, let's say, dentists, where there's a lot more of them because it's a less specialized service. And as you can see, our example here is Facebook ads for orthodontists. Now let's take me off the screen and look at the large market niche service side of things. So we've got the pros here are going to be that we have a large total addressable market. So again, we can market to tons of people instead of just like 10,000. Less turning clients away, more people that come to us, even if they're not super in our niche. If we have the ability to be a bit more flexible, then we can work with those clients if we're just niche down in our service. And then the last pro here is that the business is more malleable and you can pivot a lot easier if your services are built for multiple niches or, multiple segments of one niche. And while these pros are attractive, there's also some cons that come with the large market niche service. The first one is less powerful prospecting. When you're reaching out to local businesses and you say we work with dentists, chiropractors, stem cell treatment, all of this kind of thing, and they only fit one of those, it's not quite as powerful as saying, hey, we only work with dentists. That's the only thing we do. The other thing here is that you're going to have more complex delivery. It's just more difficult to deliver to multiple niches. You're going to have to tweak more things, change it as you launch. And then lastly, it's more difficult to become the best in the world when you service lots of different markets or a wider market, because there's more people going after those fish. And our example here is a cold email service for online businesses. Most things are going to be the same when it comes to cold email, but you're going to have to tweak the campaign specifically for each client in a bigger way than you would have to if you were doing it for just one niche. All right, so with this in mind, now let's go to some more specific criteria when it comes to actually choosing who you're reaching out to. So Dr. Connor Robertson is a mentor of mine. He's in a coaching group that I'm in. A great guy. He's the one that actually runs this, cold email service for online businesses, and he runs a couple other companies as well. He used to be a chiropractor and now has gone into the online prospecting space. And this is what he recommends when it comes to picking a niche. You need to have a 100,000 minimum total addressable market. Number 2, the ability to schedule 10 appointments weekly from 5 prospecting channels, so 50 total, and the ability to charge $5,000 minimum upfront, which typically means that the market you're selling to has a $5,000 plus offer as well. So if you're brand new, you're probably looking at this and you're like, well, yeah, that's pretty advanced. Like, I don't know, scheduling 50 appointments a week is a lot. And you'd be right. So this is sort of like something to work up to. That's why as a beginner, this is what I recommend. You want to pick someone that can comfortably afford $3,000 a month in marketing costs with your company. So that includes your agency fee and the ad spend. So you do like $1,500 agency fee, $1,500 ad spend. That should be comfortable for the business you're working with. So you need to make sure that you're not working with like broke businesses that are just starting out, or just an industry that doesn't make enough money to be able to afford these costs. And the reason you want this to be comfortable for them is because if you have a rough month, or for whatever reason the results aren't there in April of the year, but every single other month you're doing well, they're not going to cancel just because one month was bad, because it's a comfortable expense for them or a comfortable investment. And then my second requirement is that you have the ability to reach the decision maker on at least one channel. The reason I put decision maker here is because let's say you're in the medical space, you can email the email that's on the website of whatever clinic you're trying to reach out to, but likely that email is not going to reach the decision maker, especially if it's like a multi-location practice. Ideally, you need to be able to reach the person who actually runs the business, owns it, is in charge of the marketing decisions, which would usually be the owner if you're working in the small business area. And you need to know for sure that you can actually reach them directly on a channel that's accessible to everyone. So like Facebook, you can friend the doctor directly and start talking to them. That's what worked really well for me with orthodontists. And guys, just make sure both of these, you've got to have a niche that's either staying the same or growing. So look up the statistics for that niche. Alex Hormozy says that there are 3 kinds of industries to go into. The first one is someone that's growing, like a hot niche. That would be like crypto. Second one is just like an okay niche. This would be like what I'm in, orthodontists. They're not like exploding, but they're not really shrinking either. And then there's shrinking industries, which would be like newspapers. You want to pick either number 1 or number 2. Doesn't make a huge difference which one you're in. You'll probably have a lot of fast growth in number 1, but you'd have slow, sustainable growth in number 2. If you're looking for more info on examples of niches and kind of looking to dive deeper into this, I made a video specifically about how to pick a niche, and I'm probably going to make another one soon because there's some more thoughts I want to share on that. So make sure you stay tuned for that one, and then just check out the other video. All right, so now we've got that answered. Let's go to what am I selling? This is the second question in our offer. So we know who we're selling to. Now let's talk about what we're selling. And guys, this one can be tricky. So I've got a couple like decision trees here that we're going to walk through. So the question here is, do you have one or multiple specific digital marketing skills, i.e. Facebook ads, copywriting, SEO, TikTok ads, something specific? If yes, then what you should do is just sell that skill. Sell your Facebook ads, sell your YouTube ads to a niche that needs it. So you should take your skill and then find a niche that actually needs or wants that skill. If the answer is no to this and you're a complete beginner, then you need to start by conducting niche research. So what are the existing agencies selling to this niche? What services? What have business owners in the niche done to market in the past? What are the biggest businesses in the niche doing to advertise? And what are the business owners in this niche citing as their biggest problems? You need to get on the phone with real business owners in this niche and ask them these questions, because they're going to give you the answer as to what you should be selling them. You can also look at some competitors that would be your agency competitors in that niche and see what they're selling, and then sort of do a spin off of that or model your business off of that or the services you're selling. It's not good to copy them directly, but it can give you a jumping off point to say, okay, obviously there's a market for SEO for local auto shops or something like that. So if I wanted to sell SEO to auto shops, I could do that as well. And I promise you, asking these questions before you pick a niche and before you go in and do start trying to sell a service is going to make it much easier for you. All right, so our last two questions we need to answer are the ones down here: at what price point and with what expectations and deliverables. So to answer the price point question and this question, we need to go through this decision tree. If the answer is yes to this question, do you have 6 months of hands-on digital marketing experience? Then just go ahead and pitch and charge what you feel comfortable with. So if you have a skill like we talked about in this slide, you'll kind of know what the market rate is for it, or you'd be able to charge a little bit under the market rate to make sure you get that first client. But just go ahead and do what you feel comfortable with and do whatever you can to get that first client. If you do not have 6+ months of hands-on digital marketing experience, then you need to ask yourself, is this your first business? If it is your first business, then you need to go do free or cheap work to get started. This is the only honest way, I think, to go about this, and the most successful way to go about it. A lot of people recommend that you use a white label provider for everything when you start out, but as a first-time business owner, outsourcing everything is not really a great route to go because you won't understand your own business. And you need to have a pretty good grasp on things in order to explain it on sales calls, to overcome customer objections, to convince customers not to cancel if they're going to cancel. All of these things sort of play together, and I would definitely recommend that you run your own ads for at least a few months just to get a preliminary grasp on it, and then you can start outsourcing it. I unfortunately do not have any recommendations for white label providers because I've never used one myself. But if you go to Upwork.com, there's amazing freelancers on there that work for decent rates that you could outsource the work to when you first start. But again, I only recommend that if you have 6+ months of hands-on digital marketing experience, or you've previously run a business before and you understand how to sell and market. All right, so with all of this said, let's take a look at a couple examples of someone who's a bit more established, starting his agency, how he would answer these questions, and then somebody else who's brand new, how he would answer these questions. So let's take this example of John and talk about what he's selling. So he's selling websites and SEO because that's what he has experience in. He has 2 years of SEO experience. And he's decided that he's going to go after dentists, and he wants to charge around $6,000 for each website. And then we come to number 4, which is the trickiest question: with what expectations and deliverables. He's going to set the expectation with his clients that they will be ranked on the first page on Google in their city. So if it's an Oklahoma City dentist, then they will be on the first page of Google when somebody searches for Oklahoma City dentist. He's also going to deliver a well-designed SEO optimized website, and he's going to go through their Google My Business and optimize it one time. It's not an ongoing service, but he'll do that as part of the setup. So there's your example for someone who's a bit more established and has some experience in the digital marketing realm. So what about this guy, Rob? He has no experience. He has no idea who to sell to, at what price point, all of this stuff. So let's go ahead and answer each of these questions for Rob. He needs to pick whether he wants a niche market and a niche service, or a large market and a niche service. Because he watched this video, he's going to go ahead with the beginner recommendation, which is the niche market and niche service. Again, he's going to go with the beginner advice to find someone who can comfortably afford $3,000 a month in marketing costs and has the ability to reach the decision maker through at least one channel, and is either a number 1, growing industry, or number 2, a stable industry. So after thinking through this, looking through a few lists and kind of thinking really deeply about the question, not just choosing dentists or chiropractors because that's what everyone recommends, he's actually going to go with recovery facilities. These guys can charge something like $30,000 per month for people to be inside, and they can do quite a bit of advertising online. I actually heard this from somebody that I met on a boat a couple weeks ago, so I decided to use it as our example today. So now that he knows to whom he's selling, he's going to go to this decision tree and decide how he's going to sell and at what price point. So does he have 6 months of hands-on digital marketing experience? No. Is this his first business? No. So he's going to go do free or cheap work to get started with these recovery facilities. So he knows who he's selling to, and the expectation he's going to set when he's talking to people is, hey, you're going to get a great price, but I'm a beginner at this. I'm just being transparent. I'm confident I can get you results. I'm working with this team if he's in a coaching program that has generated millions and millions of dollars of revenue, but I am a bit new to the space. He's going to be transparent about that. Then he's going to come to this decision tree and he's going to say, no, I don't have specific digital marketing skills. So I'm going to go ahead and conduct niche research. And after looking around a little bit, he decides that he thinks Google ads would probably be the best service to sell. He's also gotten on the phone with a couple people who run recovery facilities, and he feels like this is the best bet. And he wants to charge a $2,000 per month retainer. Eventually, that's his agency fee, plus whatever ad spend he figures out is the right amount for these recovery facilities. All right, great. So we've got our 2 examples there. And hopefully this example with Rob was helpful in seeing how we answer these questions in succession and the best way to kind of put our niche and offer together, as well as the expectations we're going to set with the clients that we're closing. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and move to the prospecting theory side of things. How do we actually start getting out into the marketplace and talking to the people in our niche about the services that we want to sell? So when it comes to prospecting, there's 2 ways to do things. There's inbound prospecting methods and there's outbound prospecting methods. Both are very important, but you need to approach them from a little bit different mindset, as well as put different amounts of energy and time into each one. So examples of inbound prospecting methods are things like posting organic content on a Facebook page, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. A website is inbound, webinars, email list, Dream 100. I'll talk about that a bit later if you don't know what that is. Ads, and a video sales letter. All of these are things you set up once, or you work on growing their authority over time so that you get sales calls without having to actually reach out to somebody. On the other hand, we have outbound prospecting methods, which there are much fewer of, but can be quite effective, especially for beginners. So we've got cold email, cold messaging on any of these channels, and then cold calling. These are the outbound prospecting methods that will help you build your business. So let's talk about the pros and cons of each of these. Inbound, you've got high leverage. Every time you post something on YouTube, it can reach literally millions of people. Sending out an email to your email list can be 1 to 1,000 or 1 to 100,000. You can literally scale these almost infinitely because you're only limited by the number of people on that specific platform or on the internet in some cases like blogs or websites. And then the last pro here is that you have automatic authority. I cannot stress this one enough. When somebody books a call with you and you didn't reach out to them, they automatically trust you more. They see you as more of an authority. They're in the passenger seat. You're in the driver's seat on the sales call. When you reach out to them, that's not always the case. But this does come with a couple cons. It takes time to make these work. Growing a successful YouTube channel that will get you clients day in and day out can take years. And then also these are less accessible to beginners just because they do take so much time, and a lot of them take quite a bit of skill. Like SEO is quite difficult and it takes time. So if you wanted to build up your website to be on the first page of Google for whatever you're doing for marketing services, it's going to take a long time. Some of them cost money, like ads, which are again less accessible to beginners who don't have business revenue coming in yet. Now let's talk about the pro and cons of outbound methods. Outbound is great because you see immediate feedback. So it's an input to output very, very quickly. If you reach out to somebody on Instagram and they respond back to you, you get on a call, you close them, you know exactly what made them do what they did. It also didn't cost you anything except time, so it's more accessible to beginners. Now on the con side, it's time consuming. You're one-to-one, you've got low leverage, it's much more difficult to scale, and you typically have lower authority because you're the one reaching out to them, not the other way around. So these are the pros and cons, something to keep in mind. We'll talk about how to implement each of them as we progress. I like to call inbound prospecting the retirement plan. So this is something you're planning to start working years from now really well for you. So if you don't want to, you don't have to do any more outbound. Outbound is the lifeblood. This is the thing that will build your business. You have to make it the very center of what you do. When times are good, sales above all else. When times are bad, sales above all else. That's what outbound is. This is the lifeblood. The retirement plan is nice and you will get some sales through there and you'll start to figure it out as you go along. But if you only rely on this, you're not going to grow as reliably or as consistently as you would like, especially in early stages. Now, a big secret I'm going to share with you guys is there's actually a hybrid of these two. So we've got inbound on the left, outbound on the right. Hybrid is where you want to live, especially as a beginner, because it's a one-to-many solution, it's high leverage, and it's a quick turnaround, which is quite cool. It's very accessible to beginners. It's sort of like getting inbound without actually having to be super experienced or without having to be super established. So on the inbound side, we've got the organic content. So this would be, again, posting on your Facebook page, posting on a blog or a YouTube channel. Then we've got your website and your email list. On the outbound side, we've got all those same things I mentioned. Now, these hybrid ones are where it gets really interesting. As I mentioned, we've got groups. So LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups, Reddit groups, all of these are completely free to post in, but can have tens or sometimes even hundreds of thousands of people in the niche that you're trying to target. I would say groups are the most slept on, as well as the most profitable and high leverage asymmetric thing you can do as a beginner agency owner or literally any business to find new customers. Webinars, ads, video sales letter, all of these are a bit more advanced because they require you running ads or having an email list. But these are great hybrid things you can do as you begin to scale up a bit more that are high leverage and don't take as much work, but have really good outputs. Another hybrid one is your warm network. Just talking to people about what you're doing. If somebody asks you what's new in your life, you say, hey, I started a business. This is what's going on. This is what I do. And then who knows, next day they're talking to their aunt or their uncle and they're running a business. They're looking for somebody to run ads for them and they reach out to you and you guys connect. That sort of warm network prospecting, just telling people what you do and getting referrals like that is pretty incredible. And then lastly, the Dream 100. This one is super, super important. And everybody should be doing something small to work toward it every single week or month so that they can progress towards having the benefits of the Dream 100. I won't go into all the theory of the Dream 100 right now. Maybe I should make a separate video on it. But basically the Dream 100 means that you just write down 100 people who already have access to your niche. And it doesn't have to be 100, it could be 20 or 30. So consultants in your niche, influencers in your niche, anybody that has an audience or has access to the people, bankers or lenders in your niche that talk to your niche every single day. If you create relationships with these types of people, or you do webinars with them, or you have them send an email out about you by sponsoring their email list, then all of a sudden you have access to the years and years of work that this other person has put in to build this audience almost instantaneously. It's very powerful. An example of how I did this is I found a consultant in the orthodontic niche. I liked his stuff. I admired what he was doing. I just reached out and said, hey, can we connect? He was like, sure. We got on the phone, became friends. 9 months later, we ended up getting on a webinar together when COVID hit and everybody was kind of freaking out. He just wanted to do the webinar. He didn't ask for any of the revenue that we generated from it. I think we generated 18 sales calls from that consultant webinar. It was awesome. Everybody loved him, and because he had us on the webinar, they trusted us in turn. So we got to ride off of his clout and off of his trust, which was very, very nice of him. I haven't forgot what he did for us. And I try to help him out as much as I can because of it. And that story, guys, leads me to this quote, which is an amazing quote by Jeff Bezos. The difference between baseball and business is that baseball has a truncated outcome distribution. When you swing, no matter how well you connect with the ball, the most runs you can get is 4. In business, every once in a while, when you step up to the plate, you can score 1,000 runs. This long-tailed distribution of returns is why it's so important to be bold. Big winners pay for so many experiments. So the reason I want you to focus on these hybrid prospecting methods is because they have the ability to help you hit more than just one run. Whereas Outbound sometimes can help you hit more than one run if somebody gives you a referral, or for whatever reason they're well connected and they can help refer you to a lot of other businesses. Now, this can happen with outbound prospecting methods if you get a client from it and then they end up referring you because they're super well connected. But in the hybrid and the inbound side of things, this is where things get exponentially better the longer you work on them. Now, when it comes to how much you're actually supposed to put into each of these, we've got the inbound side, which is the retirement plan. I would recommend at the beginning, you're putting 20% effort into this. You can't ignore it completely because otherwise you'll be stuck and dependent on your outbound outreach. And if you stop working, then your outreach stops working. Inbound is stuff that works for you after you've posted it and keeps compounding. Outbound typically doesn't compound as well as this. So that's why you put 80% effort here to get the ball rolling quickly, and you put 20% effort on the inbound side because it helps build a hedge against your outbound prospecting. So now that we understand that, let's talk about how we actually figure out which channel to use. And the answer to figuring out which channel to use is answering this question: where does my market spend time online? So we've got all of the major social media channels, as well as email and messaging apps on this list. This is basically a comprehensive list of where people spend time online. Marketing is just figuring out how to get yourself in front of them so that you can market yourself to them. So let's talk about each one of these in turn. First of all, we've got Facebook. And we're talking about organic here, not ads, but just organic posts and messaging and all that kind of thing. So the pros to Facebook is, this bottom one is really the biggest pros to Facebook is that it's the most versatile social media channel. They've got amazing groups And they've also got like marketplace, and they've also got messaging, and they've also got posting, and they've also got business pages. Like everything can be done on one channel, which if you compare that to Instagram is not the case. Instagram's much more restrictive in what it allows. I can almost guarantee that every single person watching this video can find a group full of people in their niche on Facebook that interacts and talks regularly, in which you'd be able to post and get clients from. Then we've got auto two-way follow. This is very cool. When I friend you on Facebook, you automatically follow me back. So once they accept that friend request, both people are automatically following each other, whereas that doesn't happen on Instagram, TikTok, and other social media channels. This third one, if you interact with somebody on Messenger, they're going to see more of your posts, which is very cool. It's an integrated platform, all of Facebook's ecosystem. The more you interact with somebody in one side of it, the more you'll show up in another side. The fourth benefit here is that it's a human platform. LinkedIn, sorry, is not superhuman. People are just pitching people. People are only on LinkedIn for business, and so everybody expects to be pitched. I personally don't enjoy LinkedIn at all. I deleted my account because it just feels so fake. And then another benefit to Facebook Organic is that there's almost 3 billion monthly active users on the platform. So there's only like, I think 4.5 billion people that use the internet. So that's gotta be something like over 60% of people using the internet are on Facebook, which is insane. There's just, your market's there. If you wanna find them, they're there. So if it isn't obvious already, I really love Facebook, but there is one con that I came up with, is that some people don't use this platform super often, or they don't check it. So that would be mostly the younger generation, but if you're marketing to boomers or kind of older orthodontists like I'm doing, it's really good. There's tons of people on Facebook. That's their era. That's what they use. All right, now let's talk about Instagram organic. So the pros are that this can be great for certain markets. I think e-commerce, Instagram's a great place to be reaching out to e-commerce owners because Instagram is big for their business, and so they use it a lot. Second thing is, if they engage with you, if you're talking to them on Messenger and they follow you, they're going to see your posts and stories, just like on Facebook. I mentioned if you're talking to them on Messenger, they're going to see more of your posts. Another benefit is 2 billion plus monthly active users. That's pretty big. And then also that it's easier to create multiple accounts for prospecting. So Facebook is quite difficult to make like a fake, quote unquote, fake account. Whereas on Instagram, I don't actually think it's technically against terms of service to have multiple accounts for one person. And so you can create multiple accounts and thus be reaching out through those multiple accounts every single day. Whereas on Facebook, it's against terms of service to have more than one account. Some cons of Instagram accounts is depending on the type of account you're sending to, a lot of messages go to message requests, which means they won't really ever see it. And you're basically just falling on deaf ears. The second thing is that Instagram is quite fake. It's not as human as other platforms. They expect people to be pitching them. And so it can be a little bit less effective in that way. Then there's also no groups where you can actually prospect and post and do things like that. So not as versatile as Facebook, but still a lot of pros here. All right, next up, let's talk about LinkedIn organic. Slash automation, which I've written here because LinkedIn has a lot of great automation tools that you can plug into it, which allows your prospecting to be more automated, which everybody wants. The pros of LinkedIn, I guess one of them would be that people expect to be pitched. So it's much more acceptable for you to just DM someone and be like, hey, do you want this thing? That happens all the time on LinkedIn. There's groups on LinkedIn, just like Facebook. They're trying to compete with Facebook in that way. 310 million monthly active users, so quite a bit lower than both Facebook and Instagram. So not everybody's on this channel. That's the con here. Some markets aren't on LinkedIn. For example, my market, there's like 3 orthodontists on LinkedIn. I don't need to use it, thankfully. Next up on the pro side, we've got that it's versatile. Again, you've got groups, you've got posts, you've got all sorts of things, sort of like you do with Facebook here. Not quite as good, but still more versatile, more things you can do than Instagram, for example. The next pro I've written down is those automation tools. Makes it super easy when you've got stuff built into the platform like LinkedIn Pro or whatever they call it, as well as some third-party apps that you can plug in and start reaching out to people. I know there's been a big crackdown on this recently, but pretty much every time there's a crackdown, there's also people coming in and building out new solutions that aren't against terms of service. And as far as I'm aware, this is pretty much the only platform that allows you to automate outreach to people. And lastly, good organic post reach. Gary Vee says that TikTok and LinkedIn are the best 2 channels for going viral. So there you have it. And then for our cons, I've already listed this one at the bottom. The top one is that it's a business only platform. This could also be seen as a pro. It's kind of like this people expect to be pitched thing, but I personally don't like that. And some people prefer to be reached out to on a more human channel. All right, now let's talk about YouTube organic. YouTube is my absolute favorite social media. I'm a total nerd. So if that comes out here, I apologize, but I really think there's so many upsides to YouTube that other channels don't have. The first pro is the in-depth personal connection you have with viewers. It's just different when somebody watches 10 to 15 minutes of you, or an hour maybe with this video, than if they watch, literally 30 to 60 seconds on a TikTok or something. They're not gonna remember you as much. Secondly, it's easy to provide memorable value, which is what I just explained, but the fact that you could send a YouTube video to someone you're prospecting to or with on a different channel, and they're gonna say like, oh, wow, that was a really good video. And they'll remember you as the guy that sent them the long video that explained, how to market for their specific business. Another benefit is almost 2 billion monthly active users. Secondly, with the introduction of shorts, you can have short viral content that goes super viral very quickly. You can also have long pieces of content that go quite viral, like an hour-long video from Alex Hormozy that has nearly a million views. Like, that stuff is pretty cool, and it doesn't really happen on other channels as much. And then the other arguably biggest benefit from YouTube is that it's a search engine as well as a social media. So you've got people that it's getting pushed to, but it's also getting searched and people are finding it in the algorithm naturally, which is a big benefit for you. If you're making FAQ style videos where you're answering questions that people have and are searching, they're going to find you through YouTube, and it becomes a really good inbound channel for you. A con of YouTube is that there's no messaging back and forth like there would be on Instagram or TikTok. And in addition to that, it can take quite a while to scale up or get a client from the videos that you're making on YouTube. It's more effective as a beginner, as an indoctrination thing where you can send people directly to the video and say, oh, you have a question about how to run Facebook ads. I made a video about it. Here you go. Pretty cool. We'll get them to trust you. And there's a lot of really cool things that have come from YouTube for me, like people who've watched 5 or 6 videos, then they get on a sales call and they're already pre-sold because they trust us based on the videos that we've put out. Awesome. So now that brings us to the blog. Blogs are a very cool tool that you can get a lot of traffic from, a lot of sales from. SEO is huge. Google ads are huge. Like, Google basically invented the internet as we know it nowadays. And so getting a blog to work for you, it can be a really big draw if you're in the right niche. If you're in a certain niche that's just hyper competitive, it's gonna be really difficult to rank for what you wanna rank for. Not to say that it can't be done, but it's gonna take some time. Some pros of having a blog, there's 4.4 billion monthly active users. That's just the number of people on the internet. So, they're gonna be able to find you. It's a search engine, so people searching for high intent keywords that are like, hey, I want somebody to do marketing for my chiropractic business, they're going to be able to find your blogs because of what they're searching in. And then another pro is that you'd be able to reach an older demographic that likes to read blogs instead of watch videos. Some cons when it comes to the blog is that it's a very long-term strategy and SEO is quite a difficult skill. So you're probably just better off one-to-one prospecting than putting a ton of effort into a blog, because it's going to take 1 to 2 years to yield any results typically. All right, moving on to TikTok, very hot topic right now. TikTok has 1 billion monthly active users. That's almost twice what LinkedIn has, or over twice what LinkedIn has. It's very trendy right now. Tons of people are on it because of that. There's a lot of viral potential, and it's great if you're marketing to a younger demographic. I would say if the business owners you're targeting are like younger than 35, then you should be on TikTok, or younger than 40 maybe. TikTok is a great place to find all those people. I have a friend who does SEO for local businesses, and he's getting a lot of traction on TikTok right now, and that's pretty sweet. But I can almost guarantee that he's not getting any leads or sales on TikTok of business owners that are 50, 60 years old. So the cons of TikTok is it's not great for the older generation. There's specific rules about who you can and can't DM. And then also you can easily get banned on TikTok for, like, they just disapprove a lot of content that would be approved on any other channel. I think it's because they're relatively new, but just something to be aware of. Even if you're playing by their rules, they might ban you for some reason just because somebody reported your content. So I would really recommend TikTok if you're marketing to a younger demographic. There's a lot of positive things that can happen there. Now let's talk about cold email outreach. One of the big pros of cold email is that it's extremely scalable. Literally every business owner you'd ever want to reach out to has an email. And so you just have to find that email and send them an email and get in their inbox. And basically you have a one-on-one audience with your potential client. So those are the pros of email. So the cons, which I think are quite big, but can be overcome with the right strategy. One, it's only going to work with the decision maker's email. Again, you can't email just like whatever info@smithsdentistry.com and expect to find the decision maker. There's lots of noise in email because so many people have flooded to this platform. There's so many spam emails, so many things going out. Like, you're in a sea of other marketers, and that's why you have to try really hard to stand out. And then it's really easy to become blacklisted or just not show up in the inbox at all if you don't play by the right rules and warm up the emails that you're using. I've never done cold email outreach myself at any kind of scale, so I don't know all the rules, but if you find somebody that really knows what they're doing, I can walk you through the process of setting up cold email outreach. I know people that just absolutely crush with this, and they do a really, really good job. All right, so next up, we've got text and WhatsApp, our messaging apps. These are, there's pros and cons. The pros here are that they're great for conversing and closing deals. People feel really comfortable messaging back and forth often on these, and they have notifications turned on for them. And they're great for follow-up and retargeting. So if somebody signed up for a sales call, but they didn't actually close, it's great to text them or send out text blasts to multiple people in order to get them back on the phone. The cons of text and WhatsApp is it's difficult to get the right number. Like if you bought a list of numbers that you just wanted to spam, it's likely not going to be great. I know real estate industry does this quite a bit. I get texts all the time of people wanting to buy, houses near me, and I just kind of write these off as spam texts. So you'll definitely need to stand out, especially if you've never talked to them before and you've got their personal cell phone number. It kind of feels like a violation, whereas reaching out over social media is a bit more acceptable. Great, that brings us to our last method, which is cold calling. Pros of cold calling is it's just basically brute force. Like, you can close deals this way, you can drum up business, you get immediate feedback. It can really help you develop a tough skin and just like keep going. But there's a lot of cons for this. And the first one is that you're extremely forgettable. Somebody calling, they're not going to remember your voice. But if you message them, they're going to see your face. They're going to see your Facebook profile. They can think about it. They'll remember you a lot more than if you called, said something, and they hung up on you. That happens to everybody, like almost every single day. So it's very easily forgettable. And then secondly, it's difficult to execute correctly and consistently. So actually getting the decision maker on the phone is going to be quite difficult. And getting them to not hang up is going to be quite difficult. And on top of that, getting the volume you need and just like doing this every single day can really wear on you. And even though it feels like you're working really hard, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually getting anywhere. A good analogy for this is like, hey, you need to go to the grocery store. The grocery store is 4 miles away. You could ride your bike to the grocery store, you could walk to the grocery store, or you could drive to the grocery store. The fastest way to get what you need is driving to the grocery store, obviously. But if you walk, you still feel like you're doing a lot of work, and you can show off how much hard work you're putting in, but the person that drove, got their groceries, and came back is much more efficient than you. So cold calling, I think, is sort of like walking to the grocery store. You feel like you're working hard, but you're not actually getting that far. All right, great. Now that we've briefed on all of these different methods, which there are tons of, we need to talk about how to execute all of these strategies that we've talked about effectively. So what I want you to do is choose one outbound channel. This is your prospecting channel that you're sending messages on, sending emails, all that kind of thing. And then you choose one inbound channel. This is where you're planning on indoctrinating the people that you're prospecting to. It's not enough to just say, hey, get on a call. A lot of times you're gonna have to send them something beforehand, which was your indoctrination. This gets them to trust you so that they have a desire to get on a call. That's why I like YouTube so much. Now, there are some hybrid channels like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok where you post organic content and you can do outreach. And you've got the best of both worlds where you have the organic content that's indoctrinating people, but you also have the like, hey, in your face messages that are getting people to notice you. And this last thing in bold and in all caps, do not forget about groups. This is like the holy grail of prospecting for any business, any service-based business online. Online groups are the best place to be. So do not forget about them. Do not write them off. I think everybody should start here. One-on-one prospecting is just simply not as effective as groups. Great, so let's talk about your outbound channel first and how you actually execute that messaging. There's really 3 options that you have when it comes to sending a message on any channel. The first one is to go for the research angle, which I'll talk about. Second one is foot in the door freebies, which I'll explain. And then the third one is just to do a direct pitch. So we'll talk about each of those in turn. Before we do, we need to talk about different mediums. You can send cold messages. You could also send cold videos. You could send voice notes or voicemail drops. And then you can also send like cold mail, like a literal letter in the mailbox to somebody. I haven't done that to much success, so I'm not gonna explain or talk about it too much, but it is an option, and there's a lot of people that have a lot of success with it, but it's one of those things sort of like email where people get so much junk mail that you probably won't even get opened. Great, so let's talk about the research angle. This is the very first message I sent to get my very first client. And the way I came up with sending this message is I felt so apprehensive about selling because I didn't trust myself. I didn't think I'd be able to close them. And it just felt too salesy reaching out and trying to pitch them that it was just blocking me. I wasn't able to do the prospecting. So I talked to my mentor at the time and he said, hey, do market research. Don't try to sell right now. It's so much easier. And I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. And so what I decided to do is just start reaching out to doctors and asking them the question that you see in this text here. Hi, I'm reaching out because I'm a digital marketer doing some market research on orthodontists and best marketing practices. I'd love to share my advice for your practice and what I've gathered so far in my research in exchange for general information about the orthodontist business model and what Dr. Thompson has done in the past to market. Let me know if you're interested. Then they responded a day later and said, hi, Keaton, thanks for reaching out. How would you like to exchange information? This was super exciting. And I said, a phone call would be best for me. I'm pretty open today if you are. And she said, I wish I could, but today's crazy for me. Could we schedule something for next Tuesday? And I sent her my Calendly link. Looking back, I wouldn't have sent the Calendly link, but what I want you to focus on here is that I focused on getting on the phone with them, even if it wasn't a direct pitch, because it helps me calm my nerves. And it also helps them just trust me because it's a real person having a real conversation. So definitely consider something like this, especially if you're brand new. Just focus on getting on the phone, even if it's not pitched as a sales call. Next up, we've got foot in the door freebies. These are great ways to get people, again, on the phone with you, and you can pitch them on whatever you want once they're on the phone with you. But kind of luring them in with a hook like this can be super helpful. So examples are free Google reviews campaign, free database reactivation campaign. That's like, hey, send me 1 to 200 people who haven't closed in your business and we'll send them a text and get them back in the office. Free video audit, like I'll audit your website and tell you everything that you need to fix. Free email sequence. I've had people reach out to me and offer this. A free video or PDF explaining how to do a specific piece of marketing for that business. And then lastly, we have the direct pitch. A lot of people have success with this with cold email. Email is a bit of a different medium. Obviously, if you're reaching out over Messenger, you wouldn't just say, I can help you get 5 new patients a month. Are you interested? It doesn't sound human, but via email, which isn't really human anyway, a lot of people can say stuff like this. And then you could say something like, we help niche get result. Would you like to learn more? Another option here is, which we'll show an example of later, is just a very human, hey, I run a marketing agency that works with martial arts studios. I'm looking to connect with more martial arts studios that are looking to grow their business. Are you interested? Let me know. It's not that hard to reach out to somebody, say something human like that, and get a good amount of responses just because it's so honest. So those are your 3 options: research angle, foot in the door freebies, and direct pitch. Now let's go over a couple guidelines and then go over a few examples where you guys can see where people are executing these guidelines well or not. The first one is do not be boring. This is the biggest thing I can tell anybody about reaching out. You just have to be a little bit more exciting than boring. I've read some people's messages like, hey, do you need more jobs? I am helping people get more jobs for, home remodeling or whatever you're selling. It doesn't help. It doesn't help anyone. If you are super boring, they're not going to want to reach out to you. You have to be a mix of witty and professional for them to want to actually respond to you. The second thing that I get questions about a lot is how much do I follow up with somebody if they're not responding to me? And the answer is enough, but not too much. So what this means, in my opinion, is no more than 3 times within 2 weeks. More than that, you run the risk of them getting really upset, and you can follow up with them 2 months down the line, 3 more times. But if you go for too much right out of the gate, you're just gonna make a bunch of people upset. And then the last point on this page is be direct, get to the point quickly. People don't care. They just want to hear what you're there pitching them for. Like when somebody reaches out to me, I'll show you an example later, and just says, hey, how's it going? Good to connect. And I'm like, dude, are you trying to be friends or are you trying to pitch me something? If you're pitching something, just pitch it. If I want it, I'll say yes. If I don't, I'll say no. People really appreciate that nowadays. All right, 3 more guidelines. Number 1 is to send 2 messages on your first outreach. This is if you're using a messaging channel, not like email. Your first outreach, you should say, hey, how's it going? Good to connect. And then you should send another message that has the bulk of what you want to say. The reason for that is because you get 2 notifications, so they're more likely to like hear it on their phone or see it when it comes through. So they feel like they're getting texts instead of getting emails within their Facebook Messenger inbox. The second thing is make your messages easy to read. Please, 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 for the love of all things you hold dear, make it easy to read. So you need to break up long paragraphs, put punctuation in, make sure you spell check everything. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at a student's outreach and just been like, would you respond to this? Like, it looks so bad. And just after making a couple of tweaks, things go a lot better. The last thing is to sound like a human, talk like a human, just be yourself. Like that's the most underrated advice when it comes to prospecting, because there's so many gimmicks and things out there, but the honesty, transparency, that's what's gonna work the best in the long run. So let's look at a couple examples. This first example is honestly one of my favorites ever that I've ever received. Somebody prospecting to me about working together in like a email, they write email sequences. So the subject line of this email is, fingers crossed this doesn't backfire spectacularly. I love that. I had to click on it. I was like, it's a really cool subject line. And then he goes on to say, greetings, Keaton. You've never heard of me. Hi, I'm Tevin, but I wanted to get your attention by being witty, clever, and interesting. Alas, I only have this email to work with. Now, I'm keenly aware that you are likely inundated with a lot of pressing tasks that demand your constant mindfulness. As such, I figured I'd have to try something a bit different to get your attention. This email is my way of standing out from the pack. I'm going to interrupt your day. I'm going to do it in the most polite way I can. And then I'll take myself off the screen. You can read this whole thing. It's brilliant. He did a really good job. He definitely got a response from me. And he probably, all he has to do is like tweak a few things when he sends this out. And he gets a really good response rate because of how good this outreach is. And because most people put very, very little effort into what they're actually sending out, he stands out amazingly because he did so well here. Now let's look at this one. This is an example of something I don't really love. He reaches out, he's got like 50,000 followers. So I'm like, okay, he's probably selling something. Says, love what you built for yourself. Came across your work via YouTube and got excited to see another SMMA brother. I hope the Lord keeps blessing you. Cheers. Said, you too, man. Thanks for the reach out. And then he responds, of course, happy holidays. You're free to connect over Zoom sometime in the next month. And then I just said, what for, man? Because I felt like he was going to sell me something. And he never responded, probably because he was going to sell me something. If you're watching this and you weren't going to sell me something, I'm sorry, but like, I just don't love this sort of outreach that feels like there's some ulterior motive. So make sure you're direct. Next up, we've got this one. I hate these kinds of messages. Hi, I'm a freelancer doing funnel, website building, snapshots, all automations, triggers, all this, blah, 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 like 15 different things that I offer. If you need any kind of work, let me know. I'm not going to reach out to you. I'm sorry. This person, this was quite interesting. He reached out to me with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 voice notes, which were all almost a minute long. And I thought it was an interesting approach. It definitely got me curious, and I did listen to all of them. It's an interesting way to reach out to people because they have to go in. They can't just look at the first few words of what you said and write it off and trash it and move it to spam or archive it. They actually have to listen to it if they're interested. This would work with some people, wouldn't work with other people, but it's quite interesting. Here's another message that I sent to get one of my first clients. Hi, thanks for connecting. If you don't mind, can you answer a question for me? Uncovering the answer to this question for orthodontists and helping them fix it is a really big deal to me. So I'm trying to get as many data points as possible. If you've got time, I'd really appreciate it. What's your biggest marketing headache? This really generated a lot of interesting conversations with people. And then I just kept talking to them until they became clients. And this is a really good way to go about things. You just want to start talking to people. Get them on the phone, get them back and forth on Messenger. And that way you make friends, they refer you to other people, or you end up closing them as a client, which is great. Here's another one. This is from one of my current students reaching out to e-commerce brands. He says, hey guys, I just wanted to say I really like Empire. You have some really cool stuff. I run an agency that works with brands to run profitable social media ads, and I actually made you guys a video audit going over how I think you guys could see a lot of growth from Facebook and Instagram ads. So I was wondering if you're interested in seeing the audit. If so, I can send it through straight away. Thanks, guys. So this is okay. I coached him a little bit on how to fix things and sent him some examples, and this is what he came up with next. Hey team, you probably had people message you about Facebook ads before, so I'll try to keep this as short as possible. I think you guys have a really cool brand, and I only reach out to businesses who I genuinely think would benefit from this strategy. So I'd love to tell you about our Facebook ad strategy for getting a 4x ROI if you're up for it. This was a lot better than, I think you guys could see a lot of growth. Like there was this tangible, do you want a 4x ROI? And it's a little bit more professional. I would even go through here and say, you guys potentially take that out and sound a bit more professional, work on the copywriting there. But what was cool is my coaching student said as soon as he made this change, almost immediately, tons more people started responding to him. So that's why you have to test different versions of your outreach script so that you can see what works and what doesn't. It's all just trial and error. Here's another one, somebody reaching out to me. Hi, I really enjoyed your recent video on 2022's best SMMA niches. This is a cool, specific outreach. Focusing on one core service is definitely key. You share great insights. Quick question. I was looking over your page and had an idea for a way you could increase your sales for your course. I actually went ahead and put together a 3 email sequence for your list. I'm curious what you'll think about it. Would you like me to send it over as a gift? This is like a reciprocity thing where he's saying, hey, I'm going to give this to you. You want me to send it as a gift? And then I'm supposed to feel obligated and work with him, which he sent it over. It was a really good email sequence. I'm just not at a place where that's like really what I want, but I can see this being super effective for people who have courses and who just don't have the bandwidth to write their own email sequences. Definitely would outsource to Tim, who did a great job and wrote some amazing emails. This is a good example of that foot in the door freebie method. Awesome. So I hope those examples kind of helped you see some good examples of outreach, some bad examples of outreach, and some in-between examples, and helped you see that it's not just, hey, I write one thing, I get somebody to respond to me. You really have to work on your outreach, and you also have to land on the right person. It's a combination of you getting your messaging right and reaching out to the right person at the right time. All right, now that we've discussed all of those guidelines for outbound messaging, now let's talk about how we get people to come to us through posting inbound content. The first thing you need to understand when it comes to inbound content is something called a profile funnel. So Josh Gavin is the first person I heard mention this name. And the purpose of a profile funnel is to show people exactly what you do and have a professional looking social media page that makes people want to reach out to you. So the notes I have on profile funnels here are easily understand what you do. For example, putting in your bio, I help niche, solve problem without headache. So I help orthodontists get more patients without having to do the follow-up themselves or something like that. You want to put links to your website, your YouTube channel, other social media places where you want them to go to become more indoctrinated before they get on the sales call. In obvious places on your profile, you want a professional profile photo, and then you want a mix of business and personal posts. The posts are pretty much the most important thing, although it's important to have sort of a professional setup as well. So let's look at a few examples. This one, Mike Mark, really cool guy. He runs a couple different businesses in like the coaching, sales, online space. And as you can see, his cover photo on his personal Facebook page looks like this. Then he's got a good picture of him and his wife here. He's got friends here. Then he has his intro here. And he's got some really good pictures and posts that are very valuable on his page. Then Trey Conkram, this is one of my original mentors, similar looking thing. He's got a different looking cover photo obviously here, but his intro here is quite cool. Founder, consulting blueprint, rapidly scaling coaching businesses and getting beginners started. And then he's got links to everything here. And then he's also got some really good posts as well. Lastly, this is my profile. I've got a professional profile photo here. Picture of ortho patients, good branding here. Co-founder orthopatients.com, millions of orthodontic revenue generated for dozens of clients. This establishes that I'm very established in the space. I know what I'm doing. And then I've also got a link to my website here so people can check that out. So these are just a few examples. Obviously this applies no matter what platform you're on. So Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, all of this, consider what it looks like when somebody comes to your page, and not just on desktop. It's important to look at it on mobile as well. In fact, you'll notice here that it seems like my Ortho Patients logo here is a bit high, but on mobile, it actually looks good, and that's why I put it where it is. Great, so now let's talk about what to post on your profile. We've got 5 types of posts here. 1, value posts, 2 comment bait posts, 3 results posts, 4 FAQ posts, and 5 personal posts. Let's look at some examples of each of these. So these are some examples of value posts. My friend and coaching student Dawson made this one, which is quite cool. How to get better results from your Facebook ads. And then it was quite detailed, posting on his page. I thought it was very cool. And then this one, a little trick you can do is just kind of post a picture of you in your everyday life and then talk about work. It's a pretty good trick because it gets people to stop the scroll and then they start reading. It's really cool. This one is an example of what I posted inside of a Facebook group, just providing some value about how I had run ads for another orthodontic client. And this post actually got me a client because someone said, "Hey, I see you run ads for orthodontists. Would you like to talk?" And he became a client. Then this one is just a YouTube video. Again, all of this applies to every single platform you're using, but this was a valuable one that's gotten quite a few views and a lot of people have watched and enjoyed and has indoctrinated them before they've gotten on the phone call. Now let's talk about comment bait posts, a couple from Dawson here again. Our team got this many implant leads using Facebook ads. I documented our process. Anyone want the video? Tons of people commenting. And then this is a good one, an example that Dawson posted inside of a Facebook group just to get his profile out there. What's something you look forward to every day? 51 comments inside a dental Facebook group. And then this is one I posted, not really a comment bait one, but just sort of funny. And it's always good to be funny. So a lot of people enjoyed this one, had someone share it. And it's just good to kind of show up on the people's feeds that you're friending every single day on Facebook or that you're connecting with LinkedIn, no matter what it is, whether it's funny, serious, personal, valuable. All of these things contribute to you building up a brand that will cause people to reach out to you. Another example here is results posts. All 3 of these are for me. So this is what I posted. Ladies and gentlemen, I present you to the $10,000 Facebook Messenger conversation. All credit goes to the OrthoPatients team for making this a reality. So somebody messaged, said, "Hey, did you receive my message yesterday?" She said, "Hey, yes, I'm looking at my insurance. I have 2 kids that need braces. Awesome. We do accept PPO plans. If not, we'd still love to work with you." It's just cool that she said, I have 2 kids that need braces. That's great. 8 new patients booked in 1 week from our Chicago orthodontist directly from the social media, posted this. And then these are customer interviews that I've done with some of our clients that provide a lot of awesome social proof on our YouTube channel and that we can also put on landing pages and things like that. Next up, FAQ posts. These are really important actually, and especially good for YouTube. So you just search online for the most asked questions about your niche. And to do that, you could just type in like niche and then the word marketing afterwards. And then if you scroll down to the bottom of the search results on Google, you'll find all the frequently asked questions around that. And then you can make videos specifically about those ones. So this one is about your website. This one's about fun marketing ideas. People love this, they eat it up, and it helps us get some more people in the pipeline every single day. And then lastly, we've got personal posts. This is one of my engagement photos that just happened. Here's another one of me. I went hiking over the weekend. And then this is when I was setting up my office, when I used to have that backdrop. So just fun to kind of mix it up. These are a little bit less work. You just document what's going on in your life and make it fun. People enjoy that. And again, it kind of breaks up so that you're not all business on your profile. Now, I really, really, really want to stress, guys, do not forget about groups. Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups are the perfect place to find your first client, your 4th client, your 50th client. I don't care. You need to be inside these Facebook groups. You can post pretty much any of the things that I just talked about, but usually you're going to post value, FAQ answering posts, or comment bait posts inside of groups. And then the other thing to keep in mind is it's not just posting that you should be doing inside the groups. You should be answering other people's questions in the groups, commenting, providing value, friending people, talking to them, and just networking inside of these Facebook groups. It's basically like a 24/7 networking party with tons of people who could potentially be your customer. So make sure you pay attention to that and get on the groups, guys. So with that said, let's look at an example of what we might do when it comes to commenting. Obviously, we covered the post examples, but again, Dawson had a great example here. This person posted a question. I've been a dentist for a long time, asking about marketing. Dawson answers very thoroughly underneath and also provides a free training video at the bottom for this person to check out. Even if Mr. Gans here doesn't end up becoming a client, there's people that will read this, say, that's interesting, I want to watch that video. They'll go watch it. It's pretty cool. Some of you may be familiar with someone named Jordan Schumacher. This is how he found his very first client, just by commenting and leaving like the best value he possibly could in a comment that someone was asking about marketing in. And that's how he got his first client. Now he runs a really successful agency. All right, guys, with all of that said, it's now time to tie everything together and actually talk about how we execute this plan. Let's cover just a couple of things before we do that. First one, just a few rules to keep in mind. Again, your cold email, messaging, or text must go to the decision maker of the business. I cannot stress this enough. You'll get a lower response rate if you're reaching out to the business directly than if you're reaching out to the business owner. Number two, make sure your market uses the platform. So there's no old people on TikTok and there's no orthodontists or some other people don't use LinkedIn at all. So don't try to find them on LinkedIn if they're not there. And then lastly, consider all angles someone will view you from. This means you've got to consider your profile funnel. You've got to consider whether or not they're searching your name on Google. All of these things go together to make your prospecting successful or not successful. I would say the most important of these is the profile funnel. Not everybody's going to look you up on Google, but it's possible that they would. But the reason I put this one in here is because I've had a lot of students say, oh, I'm doing outreach. And then I go look at their Facebook profile and it's just like really normal stuff and nothing to do with business, nothing that would make a potential prospect or client actually want to reach out to them. So I was like, hey, you got to fix this. So if that's you right now, you just need to switch your profile to be a little bit more professional, a little bit more geared towards business. And I promise you your booking ratio will go up when you actually have like a professional looking profile. All right, so I promise we tie it all together. Let's do it with Rob, our guy that has no experience. Rob, as we know, has watched this video and he's been following along and writing down all of his prospecting essentials here. So he knows his niche, recovery facilities. He knows his outbound channel, LinkedIn, his inbound channel. He decides it's going to be YouTube. And then he knows he's going to be selling Google ads, and he decided that his approach to doing outreach is going to be a research approach. This is Rob's daily workflow. So on his outbound channel, LinkedIn, he's going to send 30 connection requests to owners or marketing officers at addiction recovery facilities. And he's going to message every single one of those that accepts almost immediately after, or he's going to automate it. He's going to post 3 times a week on LinkedIn, and he's going to post in LinkedIn groups 2 times a week. And the really cool thing about groups, guys, is if you post one thing in one group, then you can kind of just cross over and post it in another group, and you expose yourself twice, only having to make one post. Sometimes you'll get caught by somebody that's in both groups, but it's really not a big deal. His inbound channel is YouTube, and what he's going to do is post 1 highly valuable video per month. He decided that, he's brand new. It doesn't really make sense to try to become a YouTube star. He just wants to start making money with his agency, but he knows that he can use these videos to indoctrinate the people that he's talking to on LinkedIn, as well as the off chance of somebody finding him that's just searching for it in recovery marketing on YouTube or on Google. So this is his daily workflow. What does it look like week to week though? What's the first steps he should be taking? Number 1, he's going to create a LinkedIn profile funnel. We've talked about this. He knows it's super important. So he gets a good profile picture, he fills out all his info, and he puts up 3 quality posts on his profile before he starts reaching out to people. Then he crafts a cold message outreach script that he starts to use on people, and he starts sending outreach during week 1. This is his outreach script. It's an example of what he might write. He's broken this down into 2 messages. Hi, name, thanks for connecting. I'm a digital marketer, brand new to the recovery facility world, and I'm looking to get on the phone with a couple of owners or marketing directors who would be willing to answer some survey questions I've prepared. Are you the correct person to connect with at business name about this? I sincerely appreciate you reading my message. It's a great little outreach script that gets people to respond, gets him on the phone with people, gets the jitters out, and he decided that his approach is research, so that's what he's going to do. Week 2, this is what he does. Outreach, he's doing 30 connection requests a day. He's kind of changing his cold messaging script. So he's going to reread or rewrite after 50 sends if there's no responses. If he's getting great responses, obviously he won't change anything. He's going to post 3 times to his LinkedIn, and then he's also going to put a value post in a group that week. Ideally 2, but if he just gets 1 in, that's great. Now week 3, he's going to continue doing outreach, posting, and then he's going to start building his YouTube channel, kind of making the profile funnel for the YouTube channel, start making his first video, value post in a group 2 times, and then also take sales calls or research calls. This is so important. Some people forget, they're so caught up in just doing the work that they don't realize that what they're actually doing the work for is to get on the phone with somebody, guys. This is super important. You have to actually want what you're doing, because if you don't, then you're just going to be spinning your wheels. And I know it sounds silly to say you have to actually want to get somebody on the phone, but you'd be surprised how many people do this in their life every single day, where they say they want something, but really they're scared of getting it. And so they don't take the right actions to get there. Now let's talk about week 4 here. Outreach again, post 3 times, post his first video on YouTube, and then value post in a group 2 times, and he continues to take sales and research calls. And guys, if he does this for 4 weeks, I can guarantee you he's either got a free trial, or he's got a paying client, or he's got a lot of connections in the space and he's about to get his first client. Isn't that cool how we put it all together? Hopefully it's clear that you actually did need to understand all of that base level stuff that I talked about at the very beginning of this video. In order to put something like this together in 5 minutes, you actually have to understand everything that goes into it. The offer, the niche, the approach, the expectations, all of that goes together to create this 4-week plan that's going to get him his first client. All right, now let's talk about John, somebody that's a bit more experienced. What would he do? So his niche is dentists, his outbound channel is Facebook, his inbound channel is a blog, he's going to be selling websites, and his approach is a free audit. So this is what John's daily workflow looks like. Facebook, send 25 friend requests to dentists, message everyone that accepts, post 3 times a week on Facebook, and then his inbound channel is a blog, and he's going to post 2 times every single month, highly valuable blogs about how to grow your dental website. This is what his execution looks like. So he's going to create a Facebook profile funnel on week 1. His profile picture is info, 3 quality posts. He's going to remove all those posts from high school that don't reflect who he is as a business owner now. And then he's going to craft a cold message outreach script. And then he's going to start friending and sending outreach to people in that first week. This is his example outreach script. Hi, Dr. Name. Thank you so much for connecting. Really quick, I'm a long-term SEO specialist, just now branching out on my own into the dental world. In order to drum up business, I'm offering free, no obligation website audits. Are you interested? I provide you with up-to-date information on your local ranking and provide direction on the lowest hanging fruit to improve your website. I'm really proud of this outreach script, guys. I wrote this in like 4 minutes. I don't know, even less than that. And the reason I'm proud of it is because there's no posturing here. There's no pretending you're something you're not. There's no hard pitching. It's literally saying like, this is who I am. This is what I do. Are you interested? And he's also invoking sort of this sense of reciprocity here. I'm just now branching out on my own into the dental world in order to drum up business. He's making it clear that he's trying to drum up business with this, like he wants to sell you, but he's offering something free in exchange for that. And I guarantee you're gonna get a lot of people saying yes to this. And even if he doesn't close them right away, he's going to be planting a lot of seeds of people who'll come back to him when they're ready to redo their website or ready to get into SEO. So that's his week 1 and his outreach script. Now let's talk about week 2. Same thing, 25 friend requests a day, messaging all who accept. He's iterating his cold message script just to make it a little bit better, see if people will respond more. Although I think the one that we already did is pretty good. He's posting 3 times a week to his page, and he's just doing a value post in a group. Then the next week, he's doing outreach, upping that to 30 friend requests a day, messaging all who accept, posting 3 times, building his website / blog. He starts making his first blog posts, value posts in a group 2 times, and then he starts taking sales and research calls, doing those audits, obviously, as part of the process. It doesn't make sense to keep doing this if he could be doing an audit, getting on a call, and actually closing a client, and that takes precedence over everything else. Week 4 looks pretty much exactly the same, guys. And by the end of the month, I can guarantee you he's got a couple clients and he is doing really well. This is how we put it all together. Now, I want to close out this video talking about some mindset tips, because I know a lot of you are probably worried or you don't understand how this works. Still, after watching this video, you don't feel like you maybe have the tools to go forward. And I can tell you, if you've watched this entire video and you've understood what I've explained, you do have everything you need. You just need a little bit of a mindset tweak in order to get started. So let's check out what I've written about mindset. First thing you need to keep in mind when it comes to prospecting and mindset is to pick a pace you can sustain. You don't want to do something that you couldn't sustain for a year or more. And the reason for that is you are going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. If you do the same amount that you would be able to do on your very worst day, every single day for a long period of time, you're gonna be golden. It's okay. So pick something that's enough, but not too much. Maybe 10 to 20 outreaches per day consistently. That's a great way to go about it. And as I've written here, 20 businesses per day is a good benchmark when flying solo. It's enough volume, but not too much where you're getting super overwhelmed. But if that feels overwhelming, guys, start with 5, start with 7, then work your way up to 20. Next up, you've got to make sure you split test and improve your messaging. I can't tell you how many people, again, I think I said this earlier, but I've looked at their messaging. I'm just like, would you respond to this? Would you honestly respond to somebody that messaged you this way? If the answer is no, then you need to go rewrite it. Then also keep in mind that any response is a good response. If you're getting people to read your messages, it means that you're sending them on a platform that's good and it was interesting enough that they actually read it and responded to you. And then lastly, volume, volume, volume. It's all about quantity or quality when it comes to prospecting. You just need to get in front of enough people. Now let's come to this next page, guys. Failure is feedback. If you send out 20 messages to people and nobody gets back to you, it's not a failure. It's just feedback that the message you're sending out isn't great. And honestly, 20 people isn't enough. Try doing it again 100 times and see if you don't get a response. And then keep in mind, guys, this is supposed to be painful. This is, as I said at the beginning of the video, one of the most important skills that you can learn as a business owner. And it's one of the hardest ones to learn. That's a reason not everybody is an entrepreneur. But again, as I said at the very beginning of the video, if you master this skill, and you will, if you do everything I talked about in this video, you will never be scared for money again. And you'll always be able to close clients and figure out what to do with your business. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this video. It's been a really long one. If you watched all the way to the end, congratulations. The biggest thank you can give me for this video is going and getting your first client and telling me about it. Feel free to email me at the email in the description of my channel. Also would love to see you in the coaching group once you get that first client, or even right before you get the first client so that we can talk. And I can coach you through the process of fulfillment, expectation setting, onboarding, all that good stuff that happens once you actually get your first client. Best of luck to you, and we'll see you in the next video.